Alright guys, my name is Shervin, welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about how inflation is calculated. Now in the recent weeks, we got word that the inflation rate in the United States is at a 40-year high of 9.1%, and Canada is not far behind with 8.1%. And of course, in response to these high inflation rates, both the US Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada are increasing the interest rates on a regular basis in an attempt to limit and maybe even lower the inflation rate. In fact, just this past week, the Fed increased the interest rates by 0.75% in the United States, and the Bank of Canada is expected to do something very similar in the coming weeks. So in essence, not only are these high inflation rates affecting you because your money is now worth less, at least as far as purchasing power goes, but also you're going to have to pay more on your mortgage or any loans that you have. Which begs the question, how exactly are these high inflation rates calculated and how accurate are they really? Now, if you watch to the end, you're going to find out exactly that, as well as how these numbers are probably going to affect you going forward. Now, as always, if you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the subscribe button down below and join the community. I make new videos about personal finance and investing on a regular basis, and by subscribing to the channel, you get to see all my new videos right as they come out. Also, if you find this video useful, all that I ask from you is to do me a favor and smash the like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. But alright, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the official inflation rate is calculated by measuring the change in the CPI, which stands for the Consumer Price Index. Now, the best way to explain CPI is to imagine a basket that contains all the basic needs and wants of an average consumer. This can be anything from housing and transportation, all the way down to food and clothing. Now, the CPI is essentially an index of how much this basket costs at any given moment in time. Now, if let's say, for example, a year ago, this basket cost $100 to buy, but now today in 2022, it costs $109 to buy. That means that there's been a 9% inflation. Because essentially, you're getting the same stuff as what you were getting last year. It's just that now you have to pay $9 extra per $100 that you're spending. But now let's talk about how accurate this number is really, because when you get 9% inflation, does that actually mean that you're only spending 9% more than last year, or is something else going on? Now, the truth of the matter is that inflation is a very complex issue, and it's not as simple as, oh, this same product just costs a little bit more now, so that's the inflation rate. This is because there are so many other factors that you have to take into account. For example, if there's been new features added to a product, you have to take into account that this is not the same exact product as what it was before. For example, a brand new iPhone 10 years ago cost $700, whereas today it costs $1,000. Now, of course, part of that increment is because of the fact that our dollar is inflated and it's worth less than it was before. But that's not the only factor at play here. Because guess what? The brand new iPhone that you were buying 10 years ago is nowhere near what you're getting today when you buy a brand new iPhone. Whether you talk about the specs, whether you talk about the features, whether you talk about the cameras, the Face ID feature, the fact that it's water resistant, the fact that you have an edge-to-edge screen with no bezels. The list goes on and on, but the point is there are so many new features added to this product that it's not as simple as saying, oh, it's the same product, it just costs more. Now, what this means is that if you look at the inflation rate of the cost of any product, it's likely to be higher than the inflation rate of the dollar. Again, that's because the inflation rate of the dollar is not taking into account all the new features that you're getting with the new product. Now, another adjustment that is usually made to these inflation rates is the fact that you're able to replace whatever you're buying with something cheaper. For example, if the price of Coca-Cola goes up 20% within 1 year, it doesn't necessarily mean that there has been a 20% inflation on soda. Because again, when it comes to calculating inflation, there are also adjustments made based on the fact that people are able to just buy something else other than buying Coca-Cola. So again, the fact that consumers have the ability to go for cheaper alternative solutions instead of just buying the same product means that we're going to see a lower inflation rate than what's actually happening out there. Now, another big adjustment that is made to inflation calculations is the owner's equivalent rate. Now, this is a process where homeowners are asked how much they'd be willing to pay to rent the same place that they own if they didn't actually own it. Now, this is mainly used to measure the inflation in the renting market, but the main problem with this approach is that how are these people supposed to know how much their place is actually worth renting? At the end of the day, these are just people's guesstimates and they're not based on any factual data whatsoever. Which is why it's not exactly the most reliable way to go out there and measure how much inflation is happening in the market. So based on all these adjustments, it's clear that when we have a reported inflation rate of 8 or 9%, we're actually probably experiencing an inflation rate in the double digits. So now it's time to talk about how this is going to affect you and how you can prepare to lose the least amount of money to inflation. Now, as I've always said, the best hedge against inflation is to go into safe and long-term investments. Basically, any broad index funds that you want to invest into, go ahead and invest and make sure you buy and you hold for a long period. Now, it's very important that you buy and you hold because it's only over the long term that you can benefit from the eventual growth of the market. And of course, if you're looking for super safe investments, then you can take a look at the GICs offered by EQ Bank, which offer up to 4.9% a year on your GIC investments. Now, if you want more info on that, make sure to check out my video up here. But basically, the more money you have invested into safe and long-term investments, instead of just sitting around in a checking account and collecting dust, then the less you're going to lose due to inflation. So make sure to do your due diligence, do your research, go into safe long-term investments that you believe in, and just don't worry about the inflation rates. They will eventually come back down to where they should be. All right, now that's about it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now make sure you're following me on Instagram. I post there regularly, so if you want to be a part of it, make sure you're following me there. And as always, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about in this video, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. I always respond to every single question that comes in. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.